Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, as always, Vasili, Gianarakos, my friend. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Yariv, 7 game gauntlet for the Flyers is over against some of the best teams in the NHL. And they go 2-3-2 over that stretch. So there's a lot to dive into. But the one thing I do want to say about this Flyers team after, the Sean Couturier scratching and just this recent stretch, against all these upper echelon teams in the NHL, is the resilience that the organization, the club continues to show. Is just, at another level, right? Like they continue to bounce back from things that probably Flyers teams of the past would not have. So I think that's just been very impressive. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, dude. Yeah, the tone of this team has not changed, you know? And I would say that if we can take anything away from this, from the season overall, is like that's what we were looking for. We talked about this quite a bit on the podcast. That's probably over a year ago now, but we were talking about what makes the Bruins, right? Like are they always successful? They lose talent, they lose guys, and they're always still good. They rotated new guys. They built a culture there that they can insert average players, get more out of them. They can insert above average players, make them look like great players. And I think we've gotten to that point where we're seeing that stuff here. And there are countless names that we could go through of players who, came in with one reputation and are either leaving with a different reputation, a more improved one, or they're staying with an improved reputation. And the culture is real, the culture shift is very real. And you can see that reflected online. I was just telling you prior to this, I was looking at a Facebook post that was kind of trying to bash. It was like an article trying to bash Tortorella's like methods and asking if people would want Tortorella to be their coach of their hockey team. It was wasn't like a Philly hockey post, and every single person was saying yes. I didn't see a single no. And it just, makes you realize that while it rubs people the wrong way or any of that stuff, the results are there. And the culture has shifted and people have noticed. Um, it's exciting. Well, we'll get into that. Let me do the intro stuff and we'll get right into topics. So just before we get started, just want to remind everybody, please like, subscribe, share if you can. That's tremendously helpful. Hit the notification bell for notifications. Again, subscribing to our YouTube channel is the best way to support us. So if you can do that, that is immensely beneficial to us. Follow us on Spotify and iTunes as well. And if you can give us a ratings there, also tremendously helpful. Just supporting us all around that way is the best way to support us, at least the show. And also a shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks on 4th and South. I got an update about Jim Steaks finally, only
Wow.
a year plus behind the date that I was initially given, but they will be reopening on May 1st. My buddy Greg, who does listen to the show, he messaged me. He goes, "Now you can finally tell people where to actually go."
No more
So yeah,
DoorDash for our
right, yeah.
listeners.
So they will be opening on March 1st. Again, for those who are not aware, they had a fire, put them out on their South Street location for almost 2 years now. So
Well, it's
um,
great. They're going to be back up, and hey, like it's right in time for the Flyers' potential playoff run here, right?
yeah,
Season's ending, I think April 17th. Gym's open up May 1st. Might be
yeah,
able to get a steak and go watch the Flyers in the
yep,
playoffs. So
yep. Let's hope. Let's hope. I love that.
yeah.
And also a shout out to our other sponsors, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. One of our listeners also commented and made me realize that I was saying their name wrong. And I was saying Public Summit Adjusters, and I did look it up. And you're right. It's Summit Public Adjusters, and I was saying it backwards, so sorry. But again, you can reach them at
Hey,
two.
at least you gave the right number. So they're still calling the
let's
right
let's
place.
hope the number is right. 215-752-0560. But you get the point. All right, let's get into it. So the Flyers are they're at the end of the gauntlet. That's it. We're through
Yep,
it.
7 games against some really good teams.
Yes. I mean, arguably the best teams in the East. I mean, I don't even know if it's arguable, but they pretty much played the best teams in the East back to back to back to back for 7 games. They were 2-3-2 along that. They ended that spree of games with a tough game against the Rangers. They were up 2-0 at one point in that game, finished the third period 2-1, and then proceeded to have one of the craziest third periods we have seen. They went down 3-2, tied it up 3-3, went down 4-3, came back 4-4, went down 5-4, came back 5-5, and then inevitably lost the game in overtime in I'll say controversial fashion, but controversial from a coaching standpoint. We'll get into that. But it was a great game. It was a highly entertaining game. I was definitely frustrated watching it though. Just, you have a 2-0 lead. You give up kind of a late goal on a penalty kill, which was not been as strong as it was throughout the season for various reasons that we, can understand. Um, but it was frustrating to see them kind of lose that lead. And then obviously the overtime lineup, the coaching staff throws out, well, we'll just say John Tortorella throws out Noah Cates, Ryan Paling, and Travis Sanheim. You know, I don't have a problem with Sanheim at all being thrown out there. That one makes complete sense to me. Uh, and Cates and Paling, like on the surface level, I can understand the decision. But it is a little confusing, considering, overtime is a game of possession. You figure they want to win the face off with Paling, but then you kind of notice that Paling is kind of laboring his arm. We don't really know what's going on there. So maybe potentially injured. And it just was a little bit confusing considering like you had options that were also playing well that game, and you're going into a 3-on-3 overtime. Again, I'm not going to freak out over this decision, but it is 2 games in a row where they went with this group didn't find any success in overtime, and the talent differential is just much larger between that. In comparison, if they threw out like even Sean Couturier and TK, or Lawton and TK, or Frost and Tippett, right? There are other names that probably would be more successful in a 3-on-3 environment. Having said that, at least Ryan Paling is very fast, but it did not last long. Yeah, and I just feels like an opportunity lost. Flyers did retain their um, third place spot. They still have 2 games less remaining than Washington Capitals, who are now 1 point behind the Flyers, who they won in overtime, versus the Detroit Red Wings, which again did us almost no favors. What are your thoughts, Vasili, just overall on the Rangers game and overtime and everything?
I would say for the Flyers, it's a bit of a frustrating loss. You have a really strong first period on the road, where you outshoot the Rangers 15-9. You really start to find your stride kind of midway through that first period and start to create some chances off the rush. And then essentially second period starts, and right off the bat, Scott Laughton really quick transition goal that is relying on what the Flyers have been doing all season to be successful offensively, moving the puck quickly from defense to offense through the neutral zone in transition, creating a bit of a rush chance for Laughton, and then him being able to score. Paling gets that second goal to put them up 2-0 on the power play, and then essentially right until Zibanejad scores on the power play, the Flyers are really in control. They're playing the Rangers defensively in a fashion that you need to be successful against them. Through 34 minutes against New York, the Flyers only allowed 12 shots on goal. Right. And in the previous game against Florida, they only allowed 15 shots on goal. So that's the trend, that their underlying process defensively, and just the way that not only the defensemen have been playing, but the way the forwards have been supporting the defensemen, was really helping the Flyers kind of execute their game against the Rangers. But once the Zibanejad scored, that kind of all went out the window, and the Rangers really took momentum. Even to end that second period, right? You could feel them pressing and looking for that tying goal. And then in the third, to start off, it's really all them. Like they get that second goal to tie things up. Brodzinski scores just a minute, 23 seconds into the third. Then about a minute after Lafreniere scores to give them the lead. And then from there, the Flyers really show their resilience, and they're able to come back, and ends up being a crazy third period where you have 7 goals scored in the third, which, I mean, I don't really think that happens often. And just the way the Flyers handled that third period in general, I mean, kudos to them just for the resilience that's shown. Because that was specifically a game where, you're down 2-0, you're really dictating play, and then the Rangers just storm back 3 unanswered goals essentially, and you're on the road. That's one where you could easily fold, but the Flyers come back time and time again, right? Like they lose the lead 3 separate times in the third, and come back to tie it up. And it's really crucial for them because if they don't come back and they don't get that 1 point, you're in an even tougher situation just down the stretch here with the playoff run, and Washington's essentially tied with you. This is actually a note from Kevin Kurz, who covers the Flyers for The Athletic on Twitter. And it's from the NHL statistics. They send a morning email out to I guess certain groupings, and apparently the Rangers and Flyers combined to produce the third game in NHL history to feature 4 game tying goals in the third period. Washington and Pittsburgh achieved this back in 1975, while Chicago and St. Louis did it later in 1988. So it's a really rare feat, and just kind of shows how crazy of a period that was to see the lead change 4 separate times. But I mean, the main controversy obviously is the way that the overtime is handled. You have Noah Cates to start. You have, Ryan Poehling to start as well. I do understand what they're trying to do. Essentially, what the coaching staff's perspective and why they do this, is the Flyers are using Poehling to, try to stop the top scorers to begin overtime. You're trying to kind of stop Panarin, stop Zibanejad with some, really good defensive players and Poehling and Cates. Here's the quote actually from Brad Shaw. He said, Pales has been one of our best two-way players for the last probably 2-3 months. He's got a chance to win the faceoff, plus he's responsible at both ends of the rink. I think he's the right guy to put out there, Shaw continued. They've got 2 of their best offensive guys and one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. So we have guys that we feel are going to play both ends of the rink really well, and it didn't work out. Personally, my opinion is you need to get some more skilled guys out in the 3-on-3. There's just so much ice. You need to match up skill against skill. I think they should have either went with Frost or Konechny, or probably Frost or Tippett, some sort of combination. I mean, Poehling's really fast and all, but just to think that he's going to be on the same skill level as like a Panarin, as a Zibanejad, even Frost and arguably Konechny or Tippett might not even be on the same skill level as those guys. So I think you're just doing yourself a disservice in overtime, not having the most skilled players out there where there's the most room, and things happen quickly, right? You want to have skilled players out there so they can capitalize. So I think that's a missed opportunity for the Flyers because they did play so well, and they continued their underlying process even from the Florida game, the Boston game, the Leafs game prior, where they're continuing to play well defensively, continue to hang in with these offensive juggernaut type teams like the Rangers, and it's just a missed opportunity that you can't get that extra point. And potentially, the way you start the overtime with Cates with Poehling, that might be the reason why you lose ultimately.
Yeah. No, I look, I think that's all valid. I totally understand what you're Shaw and Torts, and I get where they're coming from. Like you kind of just want to hold off that top line, hope you can block some shots, get it out of your
Then
zone.
get your best guys out there.
Yeah, get your best guys out there. But, you know, even looking at the faceoff dot, like Frost led the entire team in faceoff percentage. He was 52.6%. Paling was 43.5% that night. He did play 20 minutes. He led all Flyers forwards in ice time. Look, I like Ryan Paling. I'm not going to sit here and shit on him. And I love Noah Cates, so I'm not
I
going
like
to.
them both. Yeah.
Yeah. But it does seem strange to go with a heavily defensive unit in a 3-on-3 situation. It it's one of those things that I didn't like about Dave Haxtell, though he would throw together good lines for overtime, but he would coach scared in the beginning of his career, but not even the beginning, towards the end of his time here. You notice that he's he started coaching to like not lose, and that's how I kind of felt, is that they were coaching in overtime to not lose,
That's
not to win, you
No,
know?
that's exactly how I feel. Like that's the perfect way to describe it. I feel like they were coaching in a manner that's safe, right? You're putting out these guys, you know what they're going to give you. It's the safe move to put out Paling and Cates, right? Whereas, there might be some more risk if you get a Frost and a Connect and you're tipping out there because they might try something offensively, they might lose the puck. But I think you have to take that risk in overtime, especially when the other team's putting out their best skilled players as well. I think if New York puts out a defensive unit to begin and you want to match that because you want to have your best skill against their best skill down the line later on the overtime, then I understand it. But I think to your point, like not putting out your best skilled players is almost kind of managing your lineup in a way that you're scared to lose in a sense, or
And it
or
was
giving the safe decision, right?
and it was essentially Murphy's law. It was one shot, one goal,
Yeah.
right? So it was like it's almost like the hockey gods kind of punishing you for not playing the overtime the right way, which the overtime the right way and the teams that are most successful in overtime is you put out your best talent and you go back and forth. And it kind of is it is what it is. It's a chaos moment. You only got three guys on the ice, open ice. And you look at a guy like TK who's whacking pucks out of the air. He's your X factor guy.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to create an X factor moment, like that's the guy to put him out. And obviously Frost has been very dynamic of late. He is potentially the most dynamic player on the team, and you just look at that situation. And it just felt like you weren't going up with like, all right, my guns versus yours. It was like, all right, don't shoot me, you
Yeah.
know.
I agree
And I don't
because
like that.
I would I could probably pick five other forwards that I put out ahead of
I would have
Cates
even
and
even
Paling.
even Coots. I think
Well,
even with
I
the
I'm just trying to
situation,
think, right? Like I would put out Konechny for sure. That's one. I put out Frost over them for sure. I put out Tippett over them for sure. I put out Couturier. I put
Lawton.
out Lawton. I put out Forster. That's six guys that I'd put out over Paling and Cates, in my opinion, to start in that situation. So when you look at it that way, and I can name out six guys that I would rather have on the ice at that time, I think it's pretty evident that it's the wrong decision. And I hope the Flyers coaching staff, they learn from that, right? Because this is multiple overtimes now where they've gone with this defensive unit to start and it hasn't paid off. So
Yeah, and what I think actually caused the goal, and I don't want to just blame him, but if you look at Paling on that shift, I mean,
he's hampered.
he's got one hand on his stick.
He's hampered. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
I don't get the decision.
Yeah, and hopefully he's not injured. We don't have any updates on him, but I just feel like you did not read your bench right for that moment. And, it was one of those things like what can go wrong will go wrong. And it did. Like normally, I think they would have survived that. I don't think it would, I don't think that they should have been bitten in the ass so much just from that one decision to open up a face off in overtime. But it was one of those things where it's like, oh, you made the wrong move.
Yeah. And sometimes that's how OT is, right? When it's 3-on-3,
Right.
it can be so quick. One little play, one mistake, and the game's essentially over. So
Yeah. And then they were probably banking on us catching them going the other way. But New York is deep too. Like Lafreniere played really well in that game. And, they they have other guys on that team that can score. So, you're better off like pushing them. You want Frost out there. Maybe he pulls off something crazy, crazy pass to TK going the other way.
you never know.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but again, um, and I guess you can also add the fact, and I think you were probably going to say this, right? But or we talked about it before you started playing or recording or not. I don't remember already, but Travis Sanheim's situation, he hasn't been participating in practices, clearly not 100%. Like, and then you consider that with the Paling, the two on top of that, it's like, did you even have three players on the ice at that time? So it's like, um, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tough decision. I mean, I guess the bright side of this, and when you look at it from an overarching view for these last seven games, the Flyers do go 2-3-2. They get 6 out of 14 points. And with their current defensive lineup and how the team was playing defensively, prior to the Couturier scratching, 6 out of 14 points against playing the Leafs twice, Bruins twice. Hurricanes, Panthers, and Rangers, who are all top 10 teams in the league. That's probably about as good as the Flyers could have hoped for on this stretch with just the defensive lineup and the competition that they're playing against. So
Yeah.
there are positives despite, it kind of ending, the 7 game
It
little
was
stretch here, ending on a negative note.
it
But
was tough to lose out on that point. It just feels like there are several times throughout this season where I'm like, I was actually thinking about it today while I was lifting. I was like, man, I was like, there are a few games this year where it's like things just bounced the other way for us, or we made one little mistake or
yeah.
whatever. I was like, we wouldn't be in this position. But that's it. I mean, that's the season. That's why every game is important. Is because you always look back retrospectively and be like, probably needed that extra point or two that we didn't get from that loss or whatever. And right now the Flyers, the good news is that they're at the end of the gauntlet, right? So we don't have the toughest schedule to deal with moving forward. No games are easy, but we'll talk about that. Um, but at least, there'll be games that where the Flyers are at least projected to be the winner and they don't have to kind of overcome
Yeah.
their odds.
There's a bit of a break here in terms of like top 10 teams that they're going to have to face moving
Top
forward.
five teams.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just to put it in perspective, the last 7 games the Flyers played, ESPN projected them to go 0-7 based on
Okay.
who they were
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
So, like, you have Montreal coming up, you have Chicago. Like, the Flyers are favored in those types of matchups. So, it does get a little bit significantly easier for them here. I think out of all 32 teams, they have the 30th um, or the 30th hardest schedule remaining. So, it does get easier, which is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I do want to talk about Cates, Coots, and Lixell as a line. Obviously, for those who have been listening, I've been asking for Cates to play with Coots for a while now. They are playing in a fourth line capacity role. I think they have done much better than their time used, which again, I just still go back to the fact, and we did have that interview with Danny Briere on Snow the Goalie. If you guys didn't listen to that, I would recommend that where they do talk about Couturier, and it does seem to be more of a body issue than anything, right? He's been sat out several times, clearly not at 100% right now. Probably the same case with Atkinson. And but when this line has been out there, they have pretty much been in the offensive zone majority of the time. They have been very difficult to play against. They've been getting scoring opportunities. I like Uli Excel. I think he's played a lot better, than his numbers show. I think there is an NHL player there, but it's almost disappointing to me that a team that's able to generate that much offensive positioning doesn't have a goal scorer on it, at least an NHL level goal scorer. I know Lixell is very good at the AHL level, but I'd still love to see Forrester on that line. I don't understand the big benefit of having Forrester with Hathaway and Paling. They're not playmakers in any sense. And they're pretty much going to do what they do regardless of who's on that line with them. Where I'm like, that seems more appropriate for Lixell. Just it's a pure grinding line. Even Paling's goal, right? It wasn't a 5-on-5; it was on the power play. Um, and I just think about that where I don't love the combination of Lixell with Cates and Coots. I think they're missing out on the opportunity to score goals on there, and they're being underutilized. That could continue for various reasons. We see clearly the coaching staff's not down on Cates because they'll throw him in overtime, right? They are getting slightly more ice time every game. They are rolling 4 lines. They're just not getting special teams time like the other players are, and I think that's where a lot of it's being thrown out. Even Scott Lawton, who had a great game, he only played 13 minutes and 18 seconds last night, right? The majority of the minutes went to Paling. Hathaway played almost 16 minutes. TK is always playing around 19 minutes a night. But it's weird to see Coots playing such a small amount of ice time, and it's going to be tougher for him to produce in that type of role offensively. But he is getting chances. The one thing I do want to see from Coots, which I am not seeing enough of, he is not shooting the puck. He's getting in opportunities to shoot the puck and he's passing it. And I'm like, you're the shooter on that line. Like
Yeah.
you're the guy.
You're the
So
offensive creator really on that line, I would
right.
say.
And I kind of wonder if like the coaching staff is waiting for that from him. Like that's a confidence thing. Like, dude, you should be trying to beat the goalie. And I'm not seeing him shoot. I'm
Some
seeing an
more
opportunity.
aggression out of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I'm seeing him kind of take it off to the side and look for a pass. I'm like, I get it,
A
but
lot of
like,
cycling with that line is
yeah,
what I'm seeing, right? Like you're seeing them get into the zone. Sometimes, Couturier does have an opportunity to shoot, but then just opts to kind of throw it back in the corner and then start another cycle, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because you're keeping possession and you're trying to grind the other team down. But at some point, you do have to take it to the net, and I'm sure the Flyers coaching staff would love to see that from the Couturier. I'd love to see just some more aggression in his game in general. Obviously, I mean, the big news, we didn't really get to address it because it happened a day after we recorded last week. But I mean, Sean Couturier gets scratched for 2 games against the Leafs and Carolina, and then returns this past weekend when the Flyers, defeated the Boston Bruins, which is crazy that the Flyers haven't beaten the Bruins since this past Saturday, since October 20th, 2021. So just, getting the monkey off your back for sure
they did
with
that with the
that one.
Leafs too, right?
Yeah, it was a while for them to beat the Leafs as well. I think like the last 7 or 8 games or matchups against them, they lost to them before this most recent win. But yeah, that line with Cates, Lexell, and Couturier, it was really good in the Boston game in the return. They had a 72% Corsi for rating in that game. So essentially, when that line's on the ice, they're controlling the puck possession. They're having, greater chances and scoring chances against or created versus against. And that's the same thing that's essentially been happening the last couple of games here when they've been aligned, right? Like they, for the most part, will have control of the puck, will be in the other team's, end in terms of offensive zone puck possession, things like that. But they just haven't really been able to capitalize or create a lot in terms of scoring opportunities. And it is puzzling just for me to see a guy like Couturier continue still to have the limited ice time, right? Like in that return game against Boston, he gets 13 minutes and 9 seconds of time on ice. In the 4-1 loss to Florida, 10 minutes and 30 seconds of time on ice. And then in the loss to the Rangers for Couturier, only 11 minutes, 46 seconds. So I do wonder if we see that usage eventually kind of creep back up to at least the 15, 16 minute range and maybe see some penalty kill power play time. Like, I guess time will tell on that, but um, I think it might be, at least for the scratching, right? Like injuries could have definitely played a factor. Personally, I mean, I didn't agree with removing him for 2 games. I would have only scratched him for 1 game, but obviously there's a method to Tortorella's madness, and you can't ignore that. The move that he made to scratch his captain does revitalize his team, because if you look at the underlying process for the Flyers, before the Couturier scratching, like it really wasn't good, right? They got blown out, against the Leafs in Boston, 2 weeks ago, essentially heading into the games where they scratched Couturier against the Leafs again in Carolina. And since they scratched him, you really do see that defensively, the Flyers have been able to respond and really limit other teams' chances, opportunities, as they kind of were doing previously in the season, right? When that's kind of been their bread and butter. They haven't really let teams create a lot offensively, get a lot of shots on goal against them. And you can see, right, like against the Rangers, halfway through the game, they only essentially allow them to have 12 shots on goal. Against Florida, right? They limit them to 15 shots on net. Even against Boston, they significantly limit the Bruins in terms of shots in that return game for Couturier. So I think even though Couturier probably wasn't the worst forward on the ice leading up to the scratching, obviously you get the results that you're looking for with scratching him. The team in this 7 game gauntlet, they really need points. They're in a playoff race and they're able to get, some points after starting the stretch off really poorly. So you get the intended result that you're looking for. And obviously the main thing and the main risk is that you could have deteriorated the relationship between your captain and your coach. Obviously Couturier puts it all past him and it's all in the past. So it doesn't look to have created any long-term rifts, which is a good thing. And the Flyers game has seemed to take an upswing. So from that kind of view, all works out here. And then just to touch on the injuries potentially contributing to why maybe they want to give Couturier a break here. Just going back to the Snow the goalie interview with Daniel Briere, I have some quotes here, just surrounding Couturier's fatigue and even the fact he's playing through injuries earlier this season. So these are the quotes from Briere. You go back to earlier in the season, Sean was missing some practices here and there. It wasn't just to recuperate from playing 22 minutes. He was really banged up. I think at one point there were 5 different injuries he was dealing with, and he was still playing. Um, and the other quote is Sean plays hard and we were asking a lot of him. So hopefully this is just a little reset and this gives him a chance to refocus a little bit. We're going to need him. There's no doubt about that. We're going to need him down the stretch and in the playoffs when we get in. So just the comments from the general manager, I mean, that kind of states to me, despite the fact Couturier is not playing the greatest and, they're looking for more production from him. Um, he has 5 injuries affecting him at one point this season. Even Briere's mentioning this being a reset, so it kind of points to me at least that there's a lot of things he's dealing with injury wise, probably very banged up coming off, not playing for so long. And I would say the scratching might not just be okay, let's scratch this guy, let's get the team to kind of wake up because obviously that's what they're trying to do with that type of move. You're getting the team to wake up after you scratch your captain. It's a bombshell in the locker room, but you're also giving the captain essentially a week off and say, hey, like recuperate a bit, kind of try to get over what's plaguing you here injury wise, and then let's try to hit the ground running for the rest of the stretch. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree with Briere. He's going to be crucial. That's why I want to see him shoot more, and I want to see them use him more in crucial moments and give him those opportunities. I mean, you put Noah Cates out there. Why don't you put Coots out there? I just,
he's going to give you the same defensively, and there's still more of an offensive game, obviously, with
right.
Couturier and the three
Yeah,
on three. So
yeah. So, I mean, Cates had a strong game, so I understand why they threw him out there, but I want to see that line be used more confidently and be like, I truly believe that putting Forrester, and we both said it, right? Like we were saying it to each other off camera, like Forrester would be such a great compliment to the two of them playing. And
yeah.
I don't think Forrester's offensive success, even though Paling did have a nice pass to him that led to that game winner, I don't think it's like riding off of playing with Paling and Hathaway. I think it's Paling and Hathaway together, just like I think it's Tippett and Frost, right? There are certain duos that you notice. Like I think TK would produce with pretty much anybody you put him with. And the other duos, I think you need to be a little more flexible with them. But we might see that, we might not. Again, the offense scored a lot in this past game, so they might not change much. Which kind of gets me to the next thing, right? We still have 3 guys who are just essentially not playing, and I don't really know if we're gonna see much of them. Atkinson, again, I think is dealing with probably issues that they are not reporting to us. Guryanov, the newcomer, again, I didn't see enough from him to warrant him kind of being must be put in the lineup. And then Delorier, who, you know, even forget about this, but he's like a former defenseman turned forward because he's a tough guy enforcer. You don't typically have enforcers on the back end. He's just a guy who has a crucial role in a physical element that I think is kind of unmatched by anybody on this team. And I do think there's value to that, but not really necessary either, especially because this team plays chippy with or without him in the lineup. So
And you got Paling in there to kind of do that if you need him to fight, right? Paling can fight as
Hathaway,
well.
Hathaway.
Hathaway, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Hathaway, I was thinking of not Paling,
Well,
but
Paling's at least a big kid, but or big guy, but
well, no, yeah, Hathaway can be your fighter there. Like if hypothetically somebody need to drop the gloves or if there's a big hit, that you don't like,
yeah.
he can be
But
the guy to respond. Doesn't need to necessarily be a
and
guy like Delorier.
yeah, and
So
you're not limiting his ice time to 5 minutes, you
well,
know?
that's the thing, right? Like you see in that Carolina game when they played them last Thursday, Delorier only gets 3 minutes, and then Couturier comes back in the Boston game. You're thinking to yourself, like, you hampered yourself in that Carolina game because you basically played a forward short. So I think the Flyers are kind of realizing that, and that's typically, I mean, it's not something new in the NHL to see an enforcer's ice time limited once it kind of gets to this playoff stretch. Tons of
Yeah.
teams do it, and that's kind of when you see them, kind of
Yeah.
come out of the lineup because nobody's really fighting at this point of the year.
Yeah.
It's usually a fight that's between guys, if there is a fight, that aren't enforcers. Like it's a something that happens in the game to the emotion of the actual
Spur
game,
of the
right?
moment, yeah. And I don't know what's gonna happen to Delorier in the future, but again, I still think the guy's got value in the physical element. I believe he's a great dude. Like all of that, I think checks, but um, I I don't understand the point of having a guy who's in the lineup who you're playing 3 minutes a night. And especially when you have better forwards available. So again, I like the Coots, Cates, Lixell line. I would like to see Lixell with Paling and Hathaway, and put Forrester with them. Again, you can still play them, but I kind of get why they're doing that. They want to play Paling a lot. They want to play Hathaway a lot, and both of them deserve it. I mean, they've been playing well, so it's not really me bashing, but I really want to see them elevate this line. I think they're playing much better than the coaching staff is giving them credit for, and they're not being given they're not necessarily being put in a position to produce offensively. They are getting offensive draws, which is good, but you don't have like a goal scorer on that line. And that's why I still like, I think the top line has been playing well. I wouldn't say to break them up because on the surface level, they're doing well. But even if you look at TK's goal last night, like he's just doing that's unassisted goal by Travis Konechny. Like
On the
I
rush, yeah.
I really want to see goal scorers separated out. Um and while we're on it, actually I don't have it on here, but the other line that we're not really talking about, Farabee, Brink, and
Lawton.
Lawton, they like have good chemistry. I'm not in love with the line, but I will say Bobby Brink has played vastly better over the past couple
In terms of
games.
the checking, right? What Tortorella kind of
Considerably better.
commented on the
Yeah.
board battles, he's a lot more noticeable, and he's not just, not to say before he was just losing them every time he was engaging in one, but now it doesn't seem like a foregone conclusion that he's going to lose that battle. There
Yeah.
seems to be more of like a willingness for him to kind of participate there, which I'm sure it's something the coaching staff pointed out to him that, hey, like if you're going to stick here, we need you to do this.
And he was doing that in the very beginning of the season, right? That's the reason he made the team, is that he was tenacious and he has that in him. He's just undersized. Again, he was out all last
Yeah.
year, right? So this is a guy who's going to take a little bit longer to develop. The skills are there, clearly.
Can be
Um,
hard to do that on a game-to-game basis as a smaller guy, right? And
right,
continue to win those battles.
right. Which again, so Atkinson is also smaller, and
But
nobody talks about that.
the lineup's interesting, right? Because if you look at this 7 game gauntlet, like Tippett in the last 7 games playing with Frost and connecting 9 points. Frost in his last 7 games, 7 points. Connecting in his last 7 games, also 7 points. So just based on that production, like my thought process is they're probably gonna keep that line together, and that makes
I
sense.
imagine, yeah.
Frost and Tippett, really good chemistry. We know they play well together. Konechny and Frost, the skill set meshes, right? Like you playmaker, shooter. So I get it. You put Frost between two of your best shooters. That makes sense. But like you said, right? Like the Lawton, Brink, Farabee. Personally, I like Lawton's playing well. He's scoring. Like I think there has to be a way that you get Couturier some more ice time here coming up. Like I think it would be more beneficial to get Couturier and Farabee back together who've had good chemistry with a skilled guy like Brink. I think Lawton could still score goals for you like he has been and still contribute like he has been playing with like a Cates and a Lixell, for
What about
example.
trying Farabee on the right hand side with Cates and Coots?
I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah.
I personally, I think Farabee and Couturier would be a good combo. Like, you have your, for example, um, Frost and Tippett as your one combo, essentially. You have Paling, and Lawton is like another combo that you've been going to, or not Paling and Lawton, Paling and Hathaway is your other combo you've been going to. And then I think Couturier and Farabee could be that third combo for you. And my reasoning to that is, they played together almost for a full season. JVR was the third member of that line, and that was Farabee's best year in the league. And they were really good offensively and defensively. So I think why not put those guys together and see if they can kind of resume some of that chemistry from the past, right?
Yeah. I imagine we're gonna see more line combinations as we approach the playoffs. I can't see lines staying final. I think Flyers have a pretty fluid situation and will
Yeah.
look to mix things up if things are not successful. If they go on a run here, which is possible, probably won't see many changes. But again, the one thing I do love, 4 lines I can score. And that
Agreed.
is that is the nice thing.
Who do you think Yariv is going to get back in if there's an injury between Atkinson, Gurianov, Delorier? Who do you think draws in
I
there?
think Atkinson will probably get the first one if there's an
That's my
injury.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just
just enough.
because
He's been
he's
sitting for a
been a
while.
guy that's kind of he's been sitting for a while, but also he's kind of the guy that's, supposed to be giving you more for what he's making,
Yes.
what you're expecting. So I think they'll give him that first chance. But
Yeah. Again, it's a numbers game too. That's a lot of forwards available to be playing at the NHL level. So, we'll see what happens. Guryanov could get a shot too. I mean, Delory could get put in just because of the physicality.
yeah, it's
But
possible.
my guess is it's going to be Atkinson. Yeah. So let's go into a little bit of a goaltender conversation. There's been some news with goaltending, some disappointments with goaltending. The first person is just Samuel Harrison. Um, I just see people jumping on this guy every time he doesn't have like a great game, or like people are jumping on him for the New York game, even though Shesterkin gave up one less goal.
And he's like
Um,
the best goalie in the league.
yeah, like it was just a wild period in general,
I mean,
and
you want more saves from Urson. Like,
yeah.
ideally, you want a momentum save to kind of give you that little extra edge to win. But I mean, it's a very tough game and situation that he's in there.
The
So,
thing that's frustrating me though is that people are pretending like he's not a rookie, and like
yeah,
that,
that's
that
the
that's
thing,
not a
right?
huge element in all this. And like for those of you who've been listening to this podcast, I mean, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Like goaltenders are not ready at this age. Like they're just not. Like even look at Samsonov for Toronto. Like again, he went from being completely counted out to now being their best goaltender.
Yeah.
It's like this
Urson's
is
a
what
young
it is.
goalie at
Well, this is
24.
what it is. I feel like Carter Hart kind of fooled everybody because he came
Hmm.
in, he was so successful as a young player that people think that that's like normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. It's not average. There are not like even I forget the name of the goaltender from Carolina, the young guy. Like
Kochetkov.
right, like his team is playing really well in front of him. Okay, he's got a great rookie season as well. Like that is look at Brian Boucher's number, right? They were talking about his first
When he
rookie
was a
season
rookie, yeah.
was like his best season ever. But
How good
like
was that Flyers team?
right, and he was still a pretty good goalie. Like he was a really good backup goalie in the league. Like that's what he was. A really good backup goalie. And yeah, the first season kind of fooled everybody and all that. But like you don't really know a goalie that early. Goalies take a long time to develop. They're going to have bad games, especially when they're young.
Yeah.
Shesterkin came into the league when Erson came into the league, right? And he didn't light the whole league on fire immediately. It
He
took
was
him a
good in his
couple.
rookie season and then kind of became what he is now. So,
Right. Which I'm not saying Erson will become Shesterkin, but he will become the goalie that he is in probably another 2 years.
yeah.
So you got to be more patient than just go, oh, this is not the guy. This is the guy. This is not the guy. This is what it is. It's a rookie goaltender who's thrown into the fire. Um, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs within that. And I don't know. I feel like it's just important to remember.
No, I agree. I think, with rookie goaltenders and just with young goalies in general, you always have to remember there's a lot of a learning curve. Most goalies, first of all, don't come into the league until about this age that Urson's entered, right? Like, he's 24 years old right now. This is typically when they come in. He's still really young though. Like, this is usually as soon as they start enter, like the earliest point. Some guys even it could be 25 or 26 till they
Yeah.
get their first chance. So
27.
so he's really getting his first NHL shot at this point. I mean, like it's his rookie season, so you have to take that into consideration. And you also have to take into consideration the fact that he's the number one goalie in his rookie season. It wasn't supposed to go this route, right? Like he wasn't supposed to have this pressure on him. The pressure of a playoff run also on him. The pressure of playing 7 top 10 teams in the last like week and a half as well for a rookie. I mean, usually you're not giving your rookie goalie those matchups against the best teams and the best players, right? You're usually sheltering them and in a backup role typically. So that's probably the Flyers. That was their hope with him this season. It obviously turned into something else with Carter Hart situation and the fact that he can no longer be with the team here due to the situation and the circumstances there. But there's a couple things I want to mention about Urson that you have to look into. So first of all, Urson, you look at him wearing down here. It's something the Flyers are going to need to keep track of in the sense. Um, Over the last 10 weeks, nobody has played more than Sam Urson, no goalie in the league. And
Oh,
that's per Alex Appleyard. So shout out to him for the stat there. But yeah, so no goalie in the league's played more than Urson. In the last 69 game or 69 days, he has 24 games played. So that's the most in the NHL for any goalie. So that shows, right? The Flyers are really relying heavily on this guy, and that's going to have an effect because his first 20 games of the season up until January 18th, Carter Hart was still around. You were getting to mix Urson in with rest, and you saw how that was benefiting him, right? He was looking like a top tier goalie the way he was performing. His save percentage in his first 20 games is 911. His last 23 games since he's been the starter and they've really been relying on him with a heavy workload, his save percentage has been 880. So it shows that with the increased workload as a rookie, it is having an effect. And I'm not surprised there because typically a rookie's not going to get this amount of games in his first season. So it will be a tough situation. I think the Flyers are going to need to have to find games for Felix Sandstrom to start and hopefully try to win with him in the net, coming up with, some teams that aren't going to be the greatest in the league, right? You're getting a Montreal, you're getting a Chicago, you're getting some teams that aren't as great as the teams you've been playing. So it's a time you can maybe get Urson a rest to try to get him back to the way he was playing prior, but he hasn't been playing bad, right? Like some of these games over the stretch, he's made some key saves, has been a key contributor into why they've been winning. But I think the fatigue is something that you have to look at and say, hey, like it's just the nature of it, right? Rookie goalie, first season in the league, you're playing him a lot. When you look at his career stats, he's actually played this season the most games he's ever played in his career. So everybody was talking about how last season the Phantoms kind of burnt him out as well. And in that season with the Phantoms where he got burnt out, he only played 42 games last year. This season, he's already played more, 43 games. And even in the SHL back in Sweden, the most he ever played was 42 games in 2020. So really, this is the most he's ever played in his whole career. So I'd imagine the Flyers are wary of that, and they're probably going to need to find a way to hopefully get Sandstrom a couple more games out of the final nine here, maybe two out of the nine potentially, especially with some of the lower tier competition they're facing. But with Erson's performance, I don't think there's anything you can look at and say, hey, like he hasn't been giving the team a chance to win consistently. I think he has. There's only been really a handful of games this season where he hasn't been on his game and the Flyers have kind of gotten blown out. So for a rookie, it's really all you could ask for. And I expect a guy that's having this type of rookie season, this type of usage, he's only going to build off that experience going ahead. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that brings us to Felix Sandstrom, who had a really rough game against Florida. Uh, Gave up 3 goals on
15
14.
shots.
It was 15 for the game, though, right? It was 14
Oh
shots,
yeah,
I
the
think. Yeah,
empty net, my
it
bad.
was it was probably maybe the worst game he's played. A game where the Flyers were the better team, probably should have won that game, and just had no goaltending support. And Stolarz on the other end played a fantastic game. And you know, Tortorella's response, or lack of response in the press conference definitely didn't help. He did apologize publicly to Jordan Stahl and also to Sandstrom, and saying Sandstrom didn't deserve that. I actually do agree with him. Look, Sandstrom might not be the guy, right? But people are acting like he hasn't played any good hockey. He did have a few good games here. He's clearly not of the caliber that we need him to be, especially right now in his career. But again, like going off of one game for a guy who also doesn't have much NHL experience and freaking out over a bad performance, it's like, okay, yeah, like it sucks, but we don't really have any other options. The options are Peterson or Sandstrom, and
And
Peterson also,
Sandstrom's a better option.
yeah, he's been better. And Peterson also has had blusters of a game, so kind of just is what it is. How many games he'll play, I don't know, but I imagine he will get thrown into another game, just judging off of Tort's response, and probably kind of thinking about it and be like, I'm not gonna just throw this guy's career off of one game, especially against a very good team. those goals were all savable in my opinion. Maybe one of them, was understandable, but all savable shots. He did make a couple nice saves, some scrambles around him too. It wasn't like couldn't make a single save, but clearly not a great performance. And it does lead into the next topic, and Vasily, I'll let you respond to both. Is that the newcomer Alexei Kolosov and highly touted young goaltender who has a 3-year ELC, burning the first year of his ELC for this year on a loan. But he will be coming over. That has been announced. He's making his way over. We don't know how long it's going to take. He's got some visa problems. I don't know if problems, but process issues to deal with. And he'll be coming over here, but we're still not sure. A lot of people are jumping into throwing him into the NHL instead of Sandstrom or Peterson. Look, it's possible. I wouldn't say it's the most likely of scenarios just because the guy's never played in North America. The caveat to that is he's been playing against men. He is a talented goaltender, but again, the coaching staff needs to actually have a good look at this guy. He needs to practice with the team. The goaltending coach, Kim Dillabaugh, needs to evaluate him and needs to recommend him to the
There's a
coaching
lot of
staff.
steps in play here, right?
Right.
So
So it's possible, but I think ideally what you would hope for and what is the most realistic is to get him into some Phantoms game, and you're thinking next season and beyond. You're not thinking this season. If
yeah.
there is a serious injury, maybe, but let's hope that nothing like that happens.
Yeah, for Kolosov, I think I wouldn't expect him to be even in the AHL this season, just with the visa issues and just with everything going on.
Sure.
Like ideally, I mean, it's possible he gets into an AHL game or two, maybe. I just think when do you really see a team get especially a goaltender into games and to start into games this late when he hasn't really been with the squad? It's just a rarity. Usually you don't see it. And just the KHL factor and the fact that he hasn't played on North American ice, and the sight lines are all different. Like just to throw him into that situation and he hasn't really been prepared adequately for it. I don't know if that's the greatest thing for his development either, right? Like you're kind of just throwing him in to throw him in. And let's say he gets thrown into a game or two in the AHL and gets completely lit up because you haven't prepared him adequately. Is that a good thing for his confidence? When there's so much more to look forward to going ahead here with the 3-year ELC for next season and beyond. I just don't know if it's the best way to handle the development of a young goaltender. I definitely can't see him playing an NHL game. Like AHL, like maybe I'm on the fence even there. Like NHL, I would be very surprised. I'd imagine it's going to continue to be Sandstrom as your backup, and like they're going to try to get him into some games here against some teams that aren't really the greatest to try to rebuild his confidence after a tough game against Florida because with 14 shots against, if you just get average goaltending against the Panthers, you at least got to bring that game to overtime, right? Like only 14 shots allowed against. You need more saves from your backup than that. Allowing 3 goals on 14 shots, not ideal. But I think the Flyers' goal here is you have the Blackhawks coming up on Saturday. You have Columbus next week, the following Saturday on April 6th. Maybe you get Sandstrom into both those games against some really bad teams, build that confidence up, and you can secure those wins. But Kolosov to the NHL at this point, I would be very surprised. But it's a really good thing to see him come over early because for a fact he's going to be here next year. There's not going to be any problems with the KHL or anything like that. Kind of letting him go. But I think the Flyers and the fact they signed to that ELC kind of cemented that for them anyway. And now it'll just be getting him used to that North American ice. And I'd imagine even next season, right? He's probably going to get some AHL time to start versus just thrust into the NHL. We don't know what's happening with Carter Hart, but I could definitely see like goaltending wise, like the Flyers try to get a veteran backup to maybe pair with Urson moving ahead. Like I wouldn't be opposed. Who knows what's going to happen with Jake Allen? That's a guy I would look to maybe,
Yeah.
veteran goalie can play some games, still pretty good. And Urson can be your kind of number one guy. Maybe, 1 year stopgap, then Kolosov's your guy.
Yeah.
But we'll
I
see
think
what
I
happens.
think they're gonna have to. They can't go into next season with Sandstrom and Peterson being the potential backup.
Options.
So
Yeah.
somebody will be brought in here. Most likely, I would imagine this is Sandstrom's probably end of his tenure here with the Flyers. I don't know if he's going to get a chance somewhere else. But you figure Peterson's here for now. I doubt they're going to buy him out and just eat up more over their cap. It's possible. But they're at least going to keep Peterson in the minors and then with probably him and Kolosov and then try to bring in a different veteran and keep them as the three, keep Kolosov and Peterson as a 3-4 option there. Um, and then I guess we should address this. So Carter Hart, there was, I guess, word coming out of Russia that he was potentially signing a KHL
Yeah, I
deal.
think it was from matchru.com specifically.
Yeah, I think that's been not completely dispelled, but told that it's
Refuted yeah.
refuted.
His agents and his camp essentially have said that he has no interest in playing at this time, at this point.
Yeah.
So who
Well,
knows?
when I saw it, my immediate thought was like, that doesn't make any sense
Well, the
because
Canadian government has to allow it, and they're not going to allow it for this high profile of a case because
to go to Russia.
think about the backlash and the outrage you're going to see. Like you have to understand, right?
Well,
Like Canada hockey is the sport, gets a ton of coverage. This, World Junior champion, like think about how huge the World Juniors is in Canada. Like it's on another level in terms of people following it.
yeah,
So the fact that it's the World Junior team and a scandal associated with the World Junior team, it's huge news here. Like there's no way they're gonna ever grant something that has those headlines, that media coverage, one of those players the ability to leave pending like a trial for what he allegedly did here. So as soon as I saw that, I just knew it right in my head. This is bullshit because the government's not gonna approve, or they're not gonna give the approvals needed for him to even leave the country
yeah,
to go
that's a great
to
point.
Russia here. So
Yeah, I think it probably stems from the fact that a Russia team approached him. I would
yeah,
imagine that did happen.
likely, yeah.
I wouldn't. I would be shocked if it was just one team that approached him. To be honest with you, with his talent level. But the one thing I was thinking about too, on top of what you said, which I think is probably the best point, I was like, well, these guys were all on leave on their own personal leave. Technically, they're not suspended. They're still under contract. Like, I don't really think that technically you can even do that. Just go on personal leave and then sign a
Unless their
contract
contract's
with another
terminate,
league.
unless their contract's
Right.
terminated, yeah.
Which it is not. Now, if they terminated the contracts, maybe it's a little more believable. But I think when you get down to the nitty gritty of it and you talk about the legality issues with the actual government and Canada's relationship with Russia is not like amazing either. They're not going to want to send this guy to a non controlled environment when they're
Yeah.
potentially trying to prosecute him, right? Or
Yeah.
are.
What's the
Um,
chances? Like, think about you as the Canadian government here in a judicial and a legal system. Let's send a guy in this high profile case who has millions of dollars to Russia where we have no control or track of him. And then let's expect him now to report back to us for this trial
right.
at this time in 2 years or whenever the fuck it's going to be.
It's so
Like,
unlikely.
you know what I mean? They're just not going to take that risk. Not to say that, and I don't think the player in general would be in their best interest to not report back if that even did get granted, because then you're just opening a whole other can of worms where you just can't even come back to the country that you're from because you basically fled a pending trial. So, like, I don't think that would have been a problem, but the government's just not going to put themselves in a situation like that to even open that can of worms for it to potentially become a problem. Like they're not dumb.
Right.
And they know that if they did approve that, even though the chance is slim of that ever happening, you never know how it's going to turn out at the end, right?
Yeah,
So,
no.
yeah, no
I,
way. No
I
way.
think you're spot on, dude. I think what you said is probably 100% true. And I would not expect any of these guys to be playing anywhere. Again, a guy
Until the
came
trial's over, yeah.
Formenton came from Europe. You guys really think he couldn't have gotten a contract somewhere? Like he's not a
He already
bad
was
player.
contracted.
Right. That's what I'm
Like,
saying. They left what they were doing. So just I would not expect any news from them in the short term for sure. Um
yeah,
and
agreed.
yeah. So the other thing I do want to talk about before we take a quick break, I guess, but Tyson Forrester had a huge goal last night. Obviously, the tying goal. A lot of energy behind that celebration. It was an awesome celebration too.
Love
Like
it, man.
That kid is just growing on me more and more every game. Proven to be one of Chuck Fletcher's best draft picks. Also Cam York. I know people like to take everything away from Fletcher, and they like to do that with a lot of people. But they did a damn good job drafting him. Again, I know Flair is running the draft picks there, but it still takes Fletcher to make that call and take that
Yeah.
player.
To acknowledge Flair's information that he's giving
Yes.
him, saying, "Hey, like this is a guy we need," right?
Right, exactly. And with that goal that solidifies Tyson Forrester in the third amongst rookies, he is 2 goals, I believe 2 goals behind Connor Bedard, who's got 21.
Yes.
Yes. And Marco Rossi has 20, rookie playing for Minnesota, also a top pick. I mean, you look at the players he's got company with. Yes, he's a little bit older. He started his season at 21, but he also was completely dry of goals to start the beginning of the season.
Wasn't like 20 games or something before he
Yeah,
scored or something close to that.
could not buy a goal in the beginning of the season, even though he was playing well. Just bad luck, tightening on the stick, and that
Yeah.
seems so far behind him now.
Yariv, if you would have told me after that stretch to start that like he's probably gonna get 20 goals. Like he's at 19.
Probably going to surpass it,
There's nine
realistically.
games left. I would say 100% he's hitting 20. Beyond that, who knows? But you're right. Like, would you have expected him after the way he started? Such a struggle to
I would have
score
I would have been
to
happy
get
with 13.
yeah, to even get close to 20 is just a great accomplishment for him, right? It just shows that even though there's been struggles in his game to start, he's kind of worked through that and overcome that. And what's really the difference is the confidence is telling, right? Like versus earlier in the year. Um, he just looks like a more
He,
confident guy on the ice.
and it's crazy. He's not even a veteran, you know?
Yeah, he's a
Um,
rookie.
and yeah, dude, when I see that, like, I'm really excited for him. I know a lot
And
of people like
it's
to go ahead, go
No,
ahead,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say it's clutch goals. Like you get that tying goal against the Rangers,
Yes.
and then on Saturday he gets the game winner against Boston. And it's not like it's against bad teams. Like it's
Yeah.
against the top two teams in the league,
Yeah.
pretty much. So
Well, I'll be honest. I never thought Tyson Forrester would be a potential star in the NHL when we took him. I thought, like, look, if he's a second line goal scorer, I'm gonna be happy. That's a really good late or mid to late first round pick. He wasn't like a highly touted prospect out there. Um, at least not from like the standpoint of the draft. He wasn't like one of the big names in the draft. And you look at the way he's developing both offensively and defensively. Like this guy, this everybody likes to keep saying this team doesn't have elite talent. I mean, he is on an elite track record right now.
sky's the
Again,
limit.
he's got to continue to do it. But I mean, I see a legitimate top line winger in this guy at this point,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic to see because you can only imagine where he's going to be at 25, 26 years old.
Yeah, dude. Like I just look at it this way, right? Like he has 19 goals this season. He's almost gonna get to 20 goals. Like mostly rookies who score 20 goals, like the development path is that you do become a star in the league, right? Because you got to think about it. You're scoring 20 goals as a rookie right now. He's not really playing like top power play usage. He hasn't really been that productive on the power play yet. um, he's also a guy that at his age, like you're not expecting him to score at that level. Like look at Travis Konechny's rookie year for comparable. He scored 11 goals in his rookie year and is basically like we'd say what, like a 35, 40 goal scorer at this point consistently. And that's after 11 goals in his rookie year. Like Forster's surpassing that, probably almost doubling it up. So that's why it just says to me that the sky's the limit because you have a guy scoring 20 goals in the rookie year with the kind of shot that he has, and he's not getting top usage. Like, what's he going to do in 3, 4 years from now? Like, it makes me think that the ceiling is potentially 40 goal guy who's really good defensively, 75 points, something like that, right? Like, I could totally see
So
it.
I think the last goal scorer that, if I remember correctly, and I don't want to really count Matt Reed because he was like an overager. He was 25 by the end of that season. And he did have I think it was 25 goals or whatever, 24
Yeah.
goals. But
Jeff Carter.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The last rookie that came in and had that type of panache was Jeff Carter at 23 goals in his rookie year. Very similar season to what
Forrester's doing, yeah.
Forrester is doing. And I even look at a guy like John LeClaire. And again, this is a different era, but a similar style player, a big shooting winger with size. John LeClaire did not hit past he got to 25 goals in his what is that, fifth season in the NHL.
Yeah.
And then after that proceeded to have 3 50-goal seasons in a row, proceeding to 40-goal seasons. Again, I don't know if Forrester is going to be a 50-goal scorer, but what I do see is a potential 40-goal scorer
Yeah, scoring
player.
20 in your rookie year.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like potential 40
It's
goal
hard to do
scorer.
that.
Right. Like you look at what Reinhardt's doing right now. A lot of guys who are not like Panarins, right? Kucherovs, McDavid's, dry stuff.
That echelon lower.
Right. Like those guys need a really good system around them to get their maximum point potential.
Yeah.
Right? Like John LeClaire put up 50 goals playing with Eric Lindros. Was he an all-star
Mhm.
player? Absolutely. Would he have hit 350-goal years if he wasn't playing with Lindros? Probably not. He probably was a 40-goal scorer. But that's kind of what I see here with Forrester is like, if we can get this team together here, like we might be talking about Forrester playing with Mitchkov, right? Like that
It's
might be the
possible.
Flyers' top line
Yeah,
when
dude.
Mitchkov gets
Well,
here.
to your point with Reinhardt too, like Reinhardt's rookie year, he only had 23 goals, and look what he is now, what he's become. Like I think it's a pretty easy trend to
He
point
was
at.
called a bust.
Yeah, dude, but I think it's a pretty easy trend to point to that if you can score 20 goals in a rookie season in the NHL, that the chances of you, being a star, at least being a 35 plus goal guy for a continuous amount of time is pretty high. I'm gonna have to go back and do some research and do a Forrester article because this is getting me it's getting me real interested. But I want to go back and look at the history of it. Like, what's the probability like of you, let's say, having a 40 goal season if you score 20 goals in your rookie year?
Yeah.
I think it's personally probably very high for most guys that do it, but I'd love to see the real numbers like over the
Well,
last 20 years or
and
something.
if you look at
But
I'm sorry to cut you off. Sorry, you have something else to finish?
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I'm even just looking at Reinhardt now, who again, he just surpassed 50 goals. He has 51 goals this year. I don't know if he's a regular 50-goal scorer, but let's call him what he is, a 30 to 50-goal scorer. He started off his career with 23 goals in 79 games and then 17 goals in 79 games. Again,
Yeah,
this is
there
for
could
the
be a
Buffalo
dip at
Sabres.
points, right? Like there could
Well,
be a
then
dip. Even Jeff Carter like had 23 goals and then the next season only 14. So
right. Well, but then 25 goals in 82, 22 goals in 82 games, right? 65 points in that season. Pretty good season. Again, people were calling him a bust at this point. Uh 22 goals, 28 assists, 50 points the following year for Buffalo. Then in 54 games, he had 25 goals, 15 assists, 40 points, right? So you look at that and you're like, okay, he's definitely progressing every year, little by little. Then he finally goes to Florida, better team, 82 points, 33 goals, 49 assists in 78 games. Following year, 31 goals, 36 assists, 67 points in 82, which is like crazy. He even had like a down year, even though it's a pretty good year. And then this year, 51 goals, 33 assists, 84 points, 72 games. Like he's not the best player in the league. He's not going to be like a franchise caliber player, but he's a legitimate all-star. And if you put him in the right situations with the right caliber of players, he clearly will produce 30 to 40 goals a year. And that's kind of what I'm seeing from Tyson Forrester is if we
yeah,
get it together here, yeah, he's like bare minimum a 30 goal scorer and has potential to be anywhere between 30 and 40 goals like on a regular year.
yeah.
Potentially, if he's with a legitimate playmaker, 40 goals a year.
Well, I look at his shot, and that's the thing that is telling for me. Like he has such a accurate shot, but it's also just like the velocity behind it is crazy. I don't even think he's really untapped all of that at the NHL level of where he can use that and be successful from. Like I still think there's things for him to get better at and improve on. He's still only a rookie. And the encouraging part for me with him coming through in these big moments, big games is usually you see the opposite from a rookie. Usually in these big moments, these big games, it can be intimidating for a rookie and it's hard for them to come to the forefront and really have an impact when when you need them to contribute. And Forrester is kind of doing the opposite, right? Like it's the most key time in that Boston game. You need a goal. Your rookie goal scorer gets one for you. In the Rangers game the other night, right? You need a tying goal. Your rookie goal scorer coming through once again. So I think the encouraging factor is how young he is and the fact that he's a rookie doing this. It just bodes well for the future because it can be a hard situation to rise to the occasion in such a pressure-filled scenario where you need to score a tying goal or you need to kind of score a game-winning goal. And the fact that he's already doing that at such a young age, I think it just only speaks to what he might be able to accomplish down the line. So
Yeah, man, I agree. And the comparable of Sam Reinhart's actually not that crazy. I mean, Sam Reinhart was the second overall pick, but the physical tools, the size, it's about the
the
same.
shot, yeah.
Yeah. So
Even Carter, like I could see the shots, different types of shots, but
yeah. Carter was like a different type of player, but I totally agree with what you're saying. And Carter only hit 40 goals once in his career.
yeah.
So and we call him a 40 goal scorer, but he was in a great situation on a great team, 46 goals, 38 assists, 84 points in 82 games. Again, all-star player, not a franchise player, won a
But
cup.
you need all-star players, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Also a good two-way player in Jeff Carter and a guy who's playing. How old is he now? 39 years
39
old.
still
Still
playing, man.
playing, dude.
I
Crazy.
wonder if this is last year with Pittsburgh. I
I
would
would
imagine.
I would imagine. He's got 9 goals, 3 assists, 12 points in 61 games. He's playing on the fourth line. So
What a
uh
career for him, man.
yeah. Yeah. Had a
I
really
think
good career.
one of the only players to kind of win it all. Like he has a Calder Cup, Stanley Cup, World Junior Championship, gold medal. Like not too many guys get the AHL Calder Cup in there too, but him and Richards got it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Jeff Carter, I was looking at Sam Reinhardt's trophy list and it's ridiculous. And yeah, Jeff Carter's got 2 Stanley Cups also
Yep,
because of
that was
fucking
Kings teams.
yeah. That was pain. I couldn't even watch those games.
That was pain for me, man. Yeah.
Dude,
I grew up,
Gagne, Richards, Carter,
I love those Flyers
Williams,
teams, and I was just like, all my favorite guys are just on
John
Flyers
Stevens.
West.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
that's what I used
brutal.
to call them back in the day. I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
everybody did, but
yeah.
oh man,
All right, just want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe. Again, follow us on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a ratings there as well. Also, hit the notification bell on YouTube to get all the notifications when we release these episodes. Your support is immensely helpful to us. All right, quick injury update. We don't have too much information here, but still some really positive, interesting news. Sealer and Drysdale were both spotted at the early skate for the Flyers, both in full practice uniforms. That's what I thought was most interesting. Not wearing no contact jerseys. It does tell me that they are somewhat close to coming back. They're not probably when this episode come. Well, this episode is going to come out at night, but the morning of, if you're listening to it, I doubt that they're going to be either one of them will be playing in the game against Montreal. But Nick Sealer probably is very close to returning, and it looks like Jamie Drysdale is also maybe near behind him.
maybe the Chicago game. Who knows?
Yeah, and that would be incredibly beneficial for this team. While I have a lot of positives to say about this defense right now, because you look at the way they started to the way they're finishing right now.
They've
It took a
improved.
little bit. Well, it took a little bit, right, for these guys to get used to it. But they're playing bare minimum minutes, Addard and Yinning, but I thought they did really well. I actually thought Addard had a really strong game against the Rangers, like really probably his best game in my opinion.
He looked good. Yeah,
He looked good all around, and he was doing a little bit more offensively. He still hasn't bombed the puck, and that's okay. But he had a couple opportunities for slap shots that he didn't take, and he did wrist shots instead. Understandably so. It's a lot harder to pull off a slap shot than a wrist shot, just to get the puck on net, keep it simple. But I would
yeah.
love to see him expand his game beyond keeping it simple, because that's one of his best elements. And you really need to stick out at the NHL level to stay. But very happy with them. But if we can get some of these bodies back, I mean, Nick Sealer alone is quite frankly more important than Drysdale right now.
Just from a defensive aspect, right?
Yes, and Drysdale is incredibly important to this team, especially for the future. But he was still adapting to the team. Nick Sealer is part of the identity of this team,
Yeah.
and what brought them to the point where they were solid in third place. right? The amount of shutdown potential that he does have. It does sound crazy to say, but Nick Seeler has been one of the best shutdown defensemen that this team has seen in a long time, like in a
Yeah,
pure shutdown
well,
defensive role.
the shot blocking speaks for itself. I mean, defensively, definitely Sealer will be a help. Um, just what he does for you in that aspect with the physicality, his willingness to lay it all on the line and block shots, even his positioning, I think that's going to be much improved. You'd see a greater impact, at least positively on the defensive side from Sealer being in versus, two rookies in Adder and Yinning. So I think that, I mean, is a no-brainer, right? You kind of have to put him back in. And then obviously Drysdale, my thing with him is we saw how the Flyers have suffered here with their transitional play and rush
Yeah,
play with
totally.
Walker getting traded. So I think Drysdale will have a lot more kind of cake to bite out of the pie here, or whatever I'm trying to say. But I think he's gonna have a lot more responsibility just in terms of actually getting to rush the puck up ice and kind of play into his strengths, because when he was playing, they still had Walker and he was taking a lot of those responsibilities. So I think Drysdale as well will have a significant impact just on the Flyers' ability to create offense and kind of play the style that they're trying to. I mean, they're doing a good job getting the puck up ice now, but we saw how tough it was right out of the trade deadline. It kind of took, I think, some focus from the coaches to kind of remind the team, hey, we want to play this quick style, not just getting pinned in our own end type of style play. That was kind of happening before the scratching. So I think getting Drysdale back in there is going to help with just the style of play they're trying to promote, and they're trying to kind of put out there from a game to game basis. I do want to mention too a little bit of an update on Risto. There's not too much to say, but really the update is that there is no update. The Flyers still don't know what the injury is. It's apparently a hard one to explain, and he could be back in a matter of days, or it could be the rest of the season. And that's per Charlie O'Connor on the PHLY podcast. So who knows what's going on with
No, yeah,
Ristolainen?
no
But it's
information.
but it's kind of crazy that like everybody's been waiting to see this guy in the playoffs, and the Flyers are going to probably make the playoffs, and he's not going to be able to play. Like,
It is
just
the
the
sweet,
irony of
sweet
that is
irony. Yeah.
it's just hilarious,
Well,
man.
good luck to Risto. We could definitely use him back, but when I do see Sealer and Drysdale coming back, and the fact that Zamula and Johnson have been playing together, I think Addard and Yinning have done a very admirable job. But to replace them with a Drysdale and Sealer,
It's an
here
upgrade.
in a crucial point. I mean, talk about, you talk about motivation there and getting this team ramped up. I mean, getting two of their defensemen back into the fold like that and then keeping the other pairings the way they are would be really, really beneficial. And again, Drysdale helps immensely with the power play, and Sealer helps immensely with the penalty kills. So, like, injecting both of them in the lineup right now, or in the near future, would be awesome. Having said that, knowing that we can have Yinning and Addard kind of cycle in here, especially getting them ready for the playoffs, I think also has been incredibly crucial. And we haven't even touched on Emil Andre, but I do think it's best that he stay in with the Phantoms. And we'll talk about the Phantoms a little bit because
Yeah.
they're not out of the playoffs like I thought they were. So
No, I agree, Yariv. I think if you're going to bring back Sealer and Drysdale, replacing Yinning and Addard versus Zamula and Johnson obviously makes a ton of sense. Like, Zamula's been up with the team all year. You traded for Johnson, and I mean, he's a guy who has a cup. You're not going to sit him for two rookies. Like, it's just not going to happen.
right.
So it makes sense. And from a stylistic standpoint, you're getting one guy back in Sealer who's kind of your defensive anchor in a sense of this core. And then you're getting back Drysdale, who can really help you with the rush and that transition offense that's kind of been struggling a little bit just in terms of zone exits. So you kind of get additions in two different areas, which is a good thing for the way your defense is set up. But I also look at it, like you said, like the motivating factor for the team. Think about it this way, right? If you're the Flyers, you think, hey, we just got this 7 game gauntlet with two rookies on defense and a third pair actually acting as a second pair. And now we're getting back, two guys in a crucial stretch to kind of help us push us over the top of the playoffs. I think it's a really motivating factor
Yeah.
for the team for
Yeah.
sure.
And to be honest, that's what everybody assumed, right? That Drysdale was gonna replace Walker. And
Exactly.
I really couldn't think of a better partner on this team
Then Sealer.
To especially to bring in a young guy like Nick Sealer, let Drysdale play his game because Nick
Yeah.
Sealer will play his. You know what I mean?
Well, he can
He
focus on the offensive aspects, what he's good at, and then the defense kind of comes not as an afterthought, but that's how you can kind of learn your own end, not being burdened with all the responsibility, right? Like you have a guy like Sealer that can help you if you're Drysdale there, versus putting him, maybe with somebody else that might not be as solid defensively. So
Yeah, and I imagine they're not going to want to if they're, I assume Nick Sealer will come in and then he'll play with Addard. I don't see them doing a Johnson Sealer pairing.
yeah.
But that is, I guess it's possible. You could also move Zamula over to the right. But then, you're kind of losing the benefits of the Giannis. So
What I could see is, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but let's say if they need to like give Johnson a break, I could see Addard and Zamula as a solid bottom pair as well.
yeah, that could happen too. Look, we should be open to anything. We're just talking in ideals here, and we don't know exactly when Drysdale is going to be back, but I do suspect Nick Sealer is imminently returning. But again, no non-contact jerseys for either one of them, which I
That's a
thought
great sign, yeah.
right, which I thought was especially for Drysdale. You figure with the upper body injury, taking checks, just scrums in the corner, the fact that there wasn't like a hesitation that it tells me that he is probably closer to return than I initially thought. I thought like playoffs, but if we
Yeah,
can
I
get him
thought
here,
playoffs as well.
yeah, we can get him here with the 9 games. It's 9 games, right?
Yeah, 9 games
Yeah,
left.
9 games remaining. Then that would be very very big for us. All right, and then we have some upcoming games. We mentioned it earlier, but the Flyers have the 30th easiest schedule remaining in the NHL. So only 2 teams have an easier schedule. So with the 9 games remaining, the next 2 up and coming games will be Montreal and the Blackhawks. Again, neither team should be underestimated, especially Montreal, because they can be tricky. Like they're still going to be highly competitive. Blackhawks are a little bit easier to beat, but then again, they have Connor Bedard on their
Never
team.
know, he could
Right.
explode for a hat trick game, and
Right.
it might be against your team and it's just bad luck, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely interesting the schedule coming up versus kind of who they were playing, from a sense that, not to say the Flyers are gonna have any trap games here or maybe play down to the level of their opponents, but we have seen that in the past, that at least even against like San Jose and Ottawa, it hasn't been, walk in the parks playing some of these lower tier teams. So they're going to need to be ready, because for a lot of these lower tier teams, the whole stretch drive is about playing spoiler, right? And trying to keep teams out of playoff spots by beating them and kind of using that as your motivation. So the Flyers will have to be ready for these games. No, there's no easy games to end here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Totally agree. There are definitely no easy games. They should keep that mentality and they should be playing every team like they're playing the New York Rangers. And
yeah.
if you can win out, that it should be your goal. Not that it will happen, but that should be the goal to win every single
Yeah.
one of these games.
So the Flyers have 82 points, Caps 81. Just to list it out, the Flyers have 9 games left, and they only play 2 playoff teams in those 9 games left. The Capitals have 11 games left, only play 6 playoff teams in those 11 games, so considerably tougher schedule. Red Wings 10 games left and also play 6 playoff teams. Shout out to Dan Silver. He's the one who tweeted that
Oh,
out.
nice.
So great stat from him, but it just shows that the Flyers do have a considerably easier schedule coming up than some of the teams that they're in a race with here. But that doesn't mean that they can kind of take their foot off the gas, because those other teams, especially the Capitals right now, are they're
Red
just
hot.
really rolling, right?
Yeah.
With the Caps too, like I'm interested to hear your perspective, Yariv. Like the Caps are 1 point back now, the Flyers. Obviously, the Flyers play them one more time, final game of the season. Coming up here, though, the Flyers play, let's see, the Canadians next, the Blackhawks, the Islanders, the Sabres, the Jackets, the Canadians again, the Rangers, the Devils, and the Caps for the final game. So out of those 9 games, what do you think the magic number here is for wins or points? Like,
7.
what do you think? You think 7 wins out of 9?
If you want to
Minimum?
if you want to securely make it in. Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
fair.
especially with the 2 games in hand that Washington has. Having said that, even if we drop, we are ahead of um,
Detroit.
Detroit by 3 points, and they only have one game in hand.
But still, you
So
don't want to put yourself in that
no,
situation if you don't
absolutely
have
not.
to.
But I will say I don't care if we are in a wild card spot or in third place. I just want into the playoffs. In my opinion, there's no difference between Carolina and New York or Boston or whoever the hell we have to play.
It's true, yeah.
All of these teams are about the same. So they're all going to be
So
extremely tough. So, or Florida or
you would
whatever.
say then if they have to win 7 out of the last 9 with 82 points right now, you'd say they need to finish with 96 to make it in
Typically,
securely?
I
Okay.
would say 94 to 96, right? So
That
maybe
that
they
was
can get
gonna
away
be
with
my that was gonna be
maybe they can
my
get away with
project.
6.
That
Yeah.
was gonna be my projection. I was gonna say they need 6 for sure to get in. Anything less than 6 wins out of 9, like it's a risk. You never know what's gonna happen. The other teams could win out for all you know, right?
Yeah.
So but it's gonna be an interesting stretch drive. Like we said, the Flyers, they kind of got through their gauntlet here. Not to say that it's smooth sailing from this point, but I mean, with the competition that they're playing, they really should be able to kind of lock things down here and kind of secure a playoff spot, I would imagine. Unless
Yeah.
something terribly goes wrong here. I mean, my expectation is they're going to make it in. I think the Caps will make it into that wild card and the Flyers will get third. That's my prediction. I think Red Wings are the kind of the odd man out.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. And I think the Caps will not be red hot the entire time. Like the likelihood of them remaining red hot forever is unlikely. They've been winning games where,
They
they
shouldn't be, not to say they shouldn't be winning,
they're
but
not a great team. They've been playing really well, but they're not a great team. So with the pressure on them and the level of competition going up for them, I'm hoping they get slowed down. Maybe they even, lose a couple in a row. That's also possible. So we'll see. Detroit's been battling. It's going to come down to the wire, and we said that was going to be the case, right? Like,
man, I'm just looking at that Caps game. Like, imagine if it's that final game
well, that
for the
final game
last playoff
might
spot somehow.
it might end up being it might not be yeah, that would be wild. That would be like the year they went to the finals.
Rangers
Yeah.
and Flyers, yeah.
But what it realistically I think will probably be is who's in that third spot, you know?
Yeah,
And
exactly. That
and
might decide who gets the wild card or not.
but to be honest with you, I don't think the Flyers care and I don't think we care. We just want them to make it in. I just want them to be
Yeah.
part of the conversation. I don't care if they finish in third. I want them to stay in third. I want them to win out. But I just want them to make it in. There is no difference in the playoffs between the Rangers and the Hurricanes. There really isn't.
And even Boston, I guess, if you finish in the wild card. I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
look at the way they just played them. So,
All three teams are capable of whooping our ass. That is
yeah.
that is
And
the
we're
truth.
capable of playing with them as well if you look at
Yes,
just the
right.
games throughout the season here. So,
Exactly. So it doesn't matter. It's not like we match up better against one of the like that doesn't matter. We just need to make it in and give any team we play a run
yeah.
for their money.
I'd
That's
say
it.
their best matchup's probably the Hurricanes, if you had to pick one. And then after that, to be honest, I mean, it's crazy that I'm going to say this, but probably Boston. I just think the Rangers have their number this year, it
Yeah.
seems.
I mean, to be honest with you, if I could pick one of the four top teams in the East, it would be Florida.
Florida?
We've played
Yeah.
Florida the best out of
Yeah,
all
they
the
beat them
teams.
beat them twice, so
That would be
it's
the
a
team that I would look at and be like, if we can steal some games from a team, it would be Florida. But again, I've noticed this over the years. Playoffs a whole new ball game. Like
definitely.
your record against a team in the regular season rarely matters.
No.
Um,
But also for these top teams too, like you have to factor in, hey, like, oh, we played so well against them down the stretch, but you have to look at the urgency level. Like these teams aren't at the same urgency that the Flyers are playing with during the stretch.
that's why
So
that Rangers
it's
game pissed me off so much.
yeah, I hear you.
They
For them
didn't
to
even
come back.
play that well. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
they
the Flyers
still beat
outplayed
us.
them,
I
but
know.
for 2 periods,
They
which
also
is
outplayed
tough.
Florida and
Yeah.
lost. That's why that record is almost deceiving to go 2-3-2 because they played better than that record shows. And I think
Well,
that's
in
what's
two
even more
games,
impressive.
you can argue that, let's say, like you win that Florida game, you win that Rangers game. It really should be, like 4-1-1 instead.
Yeah.
But
It is what it is. It is what it is. Maybe if we had all our defenders, we could have.
It's
Um,
possible,
and
right?
our
I think
initial
that's
starting goaltender.
yeah, I think that's why getting these guys on D back is such a huge
Yes.
aspect for this team just because I mean, it's tough for them to play the way they want to play just with two third pairings, right? It's easy to see like you just don't have as much leash or the ability to make as many mistakes as you
Yeah.
could have in the past and actually rebound from it. Like now one mistake could really bury them with
Yeah.
the defensive court they have.
And we're
So
definitely burning out Sanheim and York getting into the playoffs alone. So
yeah, York's consistently, I think the last 6 or 7 games he's gone 25 plus minutes every night.
yeah.
Like last night I think was 27-35 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And Sanheim was close to 26 minutes.
And he's got a
Play-
brace on his knee
yes.
playing for 26 minutes too. So
Whatever
yeah.
works at this point. Again, our goal
Hey,
should
they're
be to
hockey
get in.
players, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Look, they want to get in too. The goal should be to get in the playoffs and get the experience.
Oh,
That is
100%.
invaluable. Let's do a quick Phantoms update. There's no real prospect update. I'll just say this now before we do the Phantoms update. We will be having Steve Cornianos back on here next week for next week's episode. We're going to do a full breakdown. We'll talk some Flyers too, but we're going to do a full breakdown of the Flyers farm system. I gave Steve an entire list of names, which pretty much are all of the relevant prospects that you guys want to hear about. And then we'll talk a little bit about the draft. Probably not too much because we're going to have Steve back on to do a full pre-draft show. And then maybe we'll do, well, actually, we probably definitely will. We'll do a pre-draft show with him, and then we'll do a show with him after the draft as well to evaluate what the Flyers actually got. They have a huge draft coming up here with
Yeah.
potentially 4 picks. We still don't know what's going on with that Columbus pick. Um, I suspect that they'll probably give it to us this year, considering next year's a stronger draft. But you never know. They don't have a great record, so it's a
Yeah, they're a
high
bad
second round
team,
pick.
so they might want to hold on to it due to that. It's
Yeah,
going to be interesting.
and think that they could be better next year. But I don't know. That's one for them to weigh. So the
No,
Flyers might
I
have,
was going to say I'm excited for those episodes with Steve. They're going to be good ones as usual.
yeah. But it would be kind of crazy if, let's say, Columbus does push their pick to next year. That would give the Flyers in a stronger draft year 5 picks in the first 2 rounds.
Which is a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
I would imagine if you're gonna have 5 picks in the first 2 rounds, the chance of you making all of those picks also might be slim. Although
depends
it's a
on how
strong,
deep. Yeah,
yeah, though it's a strong draft, I just look at it and say like usually a team will trade a second round pick or try to do something.
try to move up.
Yeah, exactly. That as
Yeah,
well.
that's the year to move up too if it's a better draft. So we'll see. We'll talk about this stuff with Steve. We'll see what he thinks when we get to that point. I mean, that decision probably won't be made until the season ends. I can't, with the fact that I know Columbus is rumored to be trying to move Goudreau, and they're a relatively young team, and they've been trying to move some bodies out. They fired their GM.
Scratching David Juracek
Right, like,
last week, weird.
yeah.
Like they called him up from the AHL, played him a few games, and then just healthy scratched him.
Yeah.
I just think that's
He's unhappy.
strange.
I think it's because he's unhappy there.
Yeah, there were some rumors that came out like earlier in the season
He
about his usage and stuff, but
he could
it's
be a
just a
player.
strange way to develop one of your top picks, obviously.
Yeah. He could be a guy who they will be looking to move during the draft for a high pick, a top 10 pick.
Similar
Or
like what the Flyers are trying to do with Gauthier,
who I
obviously
could see
last
doing,
season.
who I could see doing that?
What team?
Pittsburgh.
Yes, I could see that.
Because
Actually,
they have a number 10,
that's
they have a number 10 pick. They still have all their veterans. They figure they have, aging defensemen. David Juracek's a high end guy. This draft is not
let
that.
him play with Carlson and Letang and
Yeah.
learn from
And
these
it's
stars.
and it speeds up their timeline to stay competitive, with those guys. I know they're not exactly ready to blow it up, but they're like on the precipice. So, I don't know.
That's interesting. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I guess the last little bit of news we had is Hunter McDonald sized an AHL deal, so an
Yes.
ATO, I guess, with the Phantom, so amateur tryout contract, I
Yeah,
believe.
which is kind of weird
I've
because of
never
how,
seen that.
but they're also
Yeah,
so high on Hunter McDonald.
yeah,
They
but also
brought
like
him up several times.
that's what I mean. Well, yeah, I mean for them to bring up a pick, like a pretty later round pick, I'm not exactly wary of where he
He
was
also
picked
didn't
again.
play in his first game. I don't know if he's still injured.
No, he did play,
Oh, he did?
but
Then he was
so
scratched the other game.
yeah, so he played and then got hurt and then left the game, and I assume he's still injured.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he played one game with the Phantoms, got hurt midway through the first period, which like what's the chances of that? You play your first pro game and get hurt, and then they haven't really updated. There hasn't been any updates on what the
Okay.
injury is or what's going on. But it is strange to see a guy coming out of college sign an ATO. Usually guys coming out of college sign, you know, actual entry level deals. So I don't think I've ever seen that before. Maybe yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened. It's just a
It's
rarity,
it's a
right?
weird situation, especially with like them talking him up so much, him not playing the entire
You think they
year
just give
in the
him the
NCAA.
you think they just give him the ELC, right? Like
Maybe he's got dude, it might be injury concerns. You know, the fact that he
maybe, I
played
mean, he played 23 games this year, 35 games last year with Northeastern. So like he didn't play as many games, but he did play for them. I just find it the weirdest thing for me is just like, what's the chances you're going to play your first game and then get hurt? Like that sucks. Sucks for the kid, right?
did
Like
he play
you want
23
to,
games this year?
yeah, he played 23 games for Northeastern University in the H East division. So one goal, 5 assists for 6 points.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, so he had some reps, but obviously I mean, he didn't play 35 games, which is their typical season, so he must have been hurt for a point. I personally haven't kept up with him too closely. But yeah, like it is weird for a guy they're so high on to not get the entry level deal. Like I guess it's because he's a sixth round pick. Like maybe they know, hey, like let's not burn this ELC off. Let's not burn a year this year and let's just wait till next year, wait till the summer. I don't know. But
Yeah.
hopefully it's not a serious injury because I mean he's supposedly the way the Flyers are talking him up, like I haven't really seen a lot of him, but he's supposed to be really good defensively, really strong on board battles, strong in the corners. He's a big guy, 6'4", 207 pounds, only at age 21. So he's probably going to fill that frame out even more.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely upside there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we could use a defenseman like that to pan out at the NHL level. I mean, Nick Sealer won't be here forever.
That's your
Um,
Sealer replacement. There you go.
yeah. Yeah. And also the other update about the Phantoms, I kind of mentioned it earlier. Phantoms are still in a playoff race. They're actually in a playoff spot right now. Hopefully they can keep it. I didn't realize that 23 teams make it to the playoffs in the
Yeah,
AHL.
a lot. Yeah.
So they still have a chance, even with the mediocre season. They need to finish strong here. Again, the Flyers have a few of their best players. So we'll see how they handle that. But Brooks is back and Lazinski are back, and they've been kind of carrying the team offensively. So we'll see how they do. Um, they got to finish strong here, make sure they make the playoffs because it's also very important they make the playoffs. And if we want Kolosov to get some ice time, they'll have to probably extend, you know, their season a little bit too.
Yeah. No, it's important, Yariv. Like the playoffs for the Phantoms, like
I
just
agree.
as it is with the Flyers, you want the Flyers to make the playoffs for their young guys to get experience. It's the same thing for the Phantoms, right? Playing meaningful games down the stretch, playing those playoff experience type situations. That's the only way you're going to learn through the firsthand knowledge of actually experiencing it. So there's tons of young guys in the Phantoms, as we have said all year, they're a pretty young team this year. So for guys like an Andre, like an Ethan Sampson, like an Elliot Desnoyers, um, like a Samu Tuamala.
Everyone's radar at this point.
Yeah,
You know,
like a Samu Tuamala, right? Like all those guys to just have an opportunity to play in those types of situations in a playoff type atmosphere. I think that can't be stated how important that is for young guys' development. So,
absolutely. Totally agree. Also, J.R. Avon. Um, uh,
yeah, the Phantoms they have a really young team this year for sure.
yeah. So they need to get him some experience in postseason. That's important because you never know. Maybe they get some bodies back as well. If I doubt it, but you know they could at least get one of their defensemen back. All right, let's call it. That's the show. Anything you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I had a article just about Sean Couturier scratching and the whole ordeal and essentially how it's revitalized the Flyers play up on flyersnittygritty.com. So check that out and just, we appreciate all the support that you give the site, give the podcast, all the listeners, all the readers. We definitely notice, and we're going to continue to, have articles up on the website and just a ton of content as we kind of end the season and, hopefully start the playoffs here.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And yeah, make sure to check out Vasili's article. Again, just want to remind everybody, please like, subscribe, share our stuff out if you can. Hit the notification bell for notifications on when we release videos. All of that is tremendously helpful. Follow us on Spotify and iTunes. Give us a rating there. Also tremendously helpful to us. And to those who have already done that, thank you all so much. Again, shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Again, they'll be open May 1st of this year. Only 2 years in the making, but happy to have them back. So make sure to get a cheesesteak from them, and also Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. All right, that's our show. We love you guys, and remember, always stay gritty.